October 3rd, 1952. Thursday, 3:47 a.m. The pounding on Mayme Johnson's door didn't stop. Not knocking. The desperate hammering of someone whose world had just ended. Mayme came down the stairs of her Harlem brownstone in her nightgown, heart already racing, because nobody knocked like that unless death was on their heels. She opened the door. Claudette Williams collapsed into her arms like a puppet with cut strings. Mayme had known Claudette since they were 8 years old, played hopscotch on the same cracked sidewalks, shared their first cigarette behind the church, stood beside each other at their weddings, holding bouquets and promises. Claudette was family, which is why Mayme knew, from the torn dress, the swollen face, the blood running down Claudette's bare legs, the way her eyes were open but seeing nothing, exactly what had happened. Mayme. Claudette's voice was a broken whisper. They said nobody would believe me. They said I'm just a nigger girl from Harlem. They said... Her voice cracked. They said to tell Bumpy Johnson his niggers need to learn their place. Mayme pulled her inside, locked the door, called upstairs with a voice that could cut steel. Bumpy, now, Ellsworth Bumpy. Johnson came down the stairs, 55 years old, reading glasses still perched on his nose from reviewing the morning numbers. He took one look at Claudette's condition, and every muscle in his body went still. The kind of stillness that happened in animals before they killed. Who? Not a question, a command. One word delivered like a bullet. Claudette couldn't stop shaking. Mayme held her while she forced the words out. 5 men, white, young, Italian accents. I was walking home from the laundry, midnight shift. They pulled me into a car, black sedan, chrome trim, drove me to a warehouse near the docks. She started sobbing. There was a room, a mattress on the floor, rope already tied to the bedposts, like they'd done this before. Bumpy knelt beside them. His voice dropped to a gentleness that few people ever heard from him. Claudette, look at me. She did. His eyes were steady, solid, the only solid thing in her shattered world. I need you to tell me everything, every detail. I know it hurts, but I need to know so I can find them. Claudette forced herself to breathe, to remember details through the horror. The warehouse had a sign, half fallen off, said Maritime Storage, Unit 12. They dragged me inside, all 5 of them. They took turns. When I screamed, one hit me, told me to shut up or they'd kill me and dump me in the river. When they were done, when they were putting their clothes back on and laughing, the leader, tall, dark hair, scar on his cheek, he looked down at me and he said, she was shaking so violently she could barely get the words out. He said, tell Bumpy Johnson his niggers need to learn their place. This is Costello territory now. Then they laughed. Like your name and Costello's name together was the funniest joke they'd ever heard. The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. Mayme's eyes went wide. Costello, Frank Costello. Bumpy stood slowly, like a judge rising to deliver a death sentence. They invoked Frank Costello's name while raping you. The leader, he said it like it was protection, like those 2 names together meant they could do anything. Illinois. Gordon appeared in the doorway, Bumpy's right hand for 23 years, 6'4", built like a boxer, loyal as a dog. He'd been listening from the kitchen. Boss, if they're using Costello's name, this wasn't random. No. Bumpy's voice was ice over granite. This was a message. Question is whether Frank knows about it or whether his people are freelancing. He turned to Illinois. Get Doc Harris. Have him take care of Claudette. Discreetly. No hospital records, no police. Bumpy, Claudette started. The police won't help you. Bumpy said it like a fact, because it was. NYPD doesn't investigate crimes against black women from Harlem. They'll take your statement, file it in a drawer, and forget you exist by lunch. But I won't forget. I'm going to find these men, and I'm going to make them answer for what they did. That's a promise. Mayme grabbed his arm, fear in her eyes now. If this involves Frank Costello, then it involves Frank Costello. Bumpy looked at his wife. Some things are more important than politics, Mayme. Some lines you don't cross. They crossed it. October 3rd, 9:30 a.m. While Doc Harris tended to Claudette upstairs, Bumpy sat at his kitchen table with Illinois and 4 of his most trusted men. Maps of Lower Manhattan covered the table, lists of names, photographs of known Costello associates. The morning sun coming through the window felt obscene, too bright, too ordinary for what had happened. Maritime Storage Unit 12, Bumpy said, pointing at the map. That's Pier 47, Costello territory. Start there. Find the warehouse. Find evidence. Don't touch anything. Just confirm what Claudette told us. What about Costello? Illinois asked. You calling him? Not yet. First, I need to know if this is sanctioned or unauthorized. If Frank ordered this, it's war. If his men acted alone, there's still a chance to handle it without burning down New York. And if he stonewalls you, Bumpy's expression could have cut glass. Then I go through him. By 11 a.m., they had the warehouse, exactly as Claudette described. Unit 12. Room in the back, mattress on the floor, stained, bottle of whiskey. Rope still tied to the bedposts. This wasn't the first time. The room had the worn-in quality of a place used for routine horrors. Illinois sent men to canvass the area. Dock workers, night watchmen, people who saw things and kept quiet because that's how you survived near the docks. By 3 p.m., they had witnesses. The black sedan, chrome trim, arriving late night multiple times over 6 months, always 4 or 5 men, always leaving an hour later. One dock worker recognized a face, Dominic Russo, Costello soldier. By 5 p.m., Bumpy had all 5 names. Dominic Russo, 28, made man, scar on his cheek from a knife fight in 48. Assault charges before he was protected. Known for enjoying violence more than the job required. Tony Marconi, 25, nephew of Carlo Marconi, one of Costello's capos, spoiled, arrogant, protected by family blood. Vincent Calabresi, 30, enforcer, did collection work for Costello's loan operations, broke fingers, kneecaps, had dead eyes even before he killed people. Paulie Giordano, 24, new recruit, trying to prove he was hard enough to be made. Followed the older men like a puppy, desperate for approval. Marco DeLuca, 32, the smart one, the planner, driver, careful, controlled. The others were rabid dogs. Marco was a snake, all 5 under Frank Costello's protection. Boss? Illinois slid 3 folders across the table. His face was grim. There's more. This isn't the first time. Bumpy opened the first folder. Sarah Henderson, September 1952. age 19, found beaten unconscious in an alley near Pier 47. Told police she was gang raped by multiple white men. Italian accents. Police report filed. Investigation closed within 24 hours. Insufficient evidence. Sarah left New York a week later, moved to Philadelphia. Wouldn't talk about what happened. Second folder. Angela Morrison. June 1952. Age 22. Disappeared after her shift at a diner on Delancey. Family filed missing persons. NYPD did a cursory search. Case went cold. Body never found. Family still didn't know if she was dead or alive. 4 women. 4 black women. All between 17 and 22. All in the same 6-month period. All near the docks. Claudette's the first one who survived and made it to someone who could do something, Illinois said quietly. The others are dead or too terrified to speak. Bumpy stared at the folders, at the faces of women the world had decided didn't matter. His hands were shaking, not from fear, from rage so profound it felt like religion. 5 men, he said, voice deadly calm. Serial predators, operating under Frank Costello's protection, using his name as a shield to rape and murder black women. And nobody did anything because nobody cares when we die. He looked up. Get me a meeting with Frank tonight. We're not waiting on this. October 3rd, 10:55 p.m. The Copacabana was Frank Costello's kingdom, Midtown Manhattan. All chrome and mirrors and chandeliers, where celebrities and mobsters drank champagne together and pretended the world outside didn't exist, where the rules of civilization were suspended for people who could afford the cover charge. Bumpy Johnson walked through the front door at 10:55 p.m., alone, unarmed, wearing a suit that cost more than most people made in a month, but everyone in the room knew he didn't belong here. This was Italian territory. He was a black man from Harlem. Every wise guy in the club clocked him immediately. Conversations stopped. Hands moved toward guns under jackets. Frank Costello sat in his booth at the back, 61 years old, silver hair slicked back, 3-piece suit cut by the best tailor in Manhattan, hands folded on the table like a pope receiving supplicants. He saw Bumpy and raised one finger. The guns stayed holstered. Bumpy walked through the silent club, every eye on him, every hand ready. He reached the booth, sat down without being invited. Frank smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Bumpy, you walk into my club without calling, without an appointment, without permission. That's either very brave or very stupid. Which is it? Neither. Bumpy placed a photograph on the table between them. Claudette Williams. Before. Smiling at the camera. Beautiful. Alive. It's necessary. Frank looked at the photo. Didn't pick it up. Who's this? Claudette Williams, 26 years old. Laundress, Harlem resident. My wife's best friend since childhood. Last night at midnight, 5 of your men dragged her into a warehouse at Pier 47 and raped her. They invoked your name while doing it. Told her this is Costello territory and black women need to learn their place. The smile disappeared from Frank's face. Something flickered behind his eyes. Surprise, maybe, or calculation. He picked up the photograph. Now. Studied it, set it down carefully. 5 of my men. Dominic Russo, Tony Marconi, Vincent Calabresi, Paulie Giordano, Marco De Luca. You're certain? Witnesses, location, physical evidence. I'm certain. Frank leaned back, pulled a cigar from his jacket, took his time cutting it, lighting it, the ritual of a man who controlled time itself. When he spoke, his voice was measured, calm. What do you want me to do about it? Under mob law, men who rape forfeit the protection of their family. I want those 5 men delivered to me, tonight. I'll handle the rest. You want me to hand over 5 made men to you, 5 of my soldiers. I want you to hand over 5 rapists who violated every code we have and used your name to do it. Frank smoked in silence. Around them, the club continued, music playing, glasses clinking, women laughing, but their booth was an island of deadly quiet. Bumpy. Frank's voice was reasonable, almost friendly. Let me explain something. You and I have an arrangement, a profitable arrangement. You run Harlem, I run Little Italy. We cooperate on big operations, split the profits fairly. It works because we respect boundaries and we respect each other. He pointed with his cigar. But if I hand over my men because one girl from Harlem says they did something, every crew in New York will think I'm weak. They'll think Harlem dictates terms to me. I can't afford that perception. Then don't do it for me. Do it for the code. Women and children are off limits. You taught me that 20 years ago. Your men violated it. Allegedly violated it. Where's the proof? Where's the police report? Where's the physical evidence that would stand up in court? Bumpy's eyes were fire. You know she can't go to the police. NYPD doesn't investigate crimes against black women. Your men know that too. That's exactly why they thought they could get away with it. They're using systemic racism as cover for serial rape. That's a very eloquent speech. Frank tapped ash from his cigar. But I run a business, not a charity. I can't execute my men based on one woman's accusation, even if that woman is friends with your wife. This isn't about one woman. Bumpy pulled out 3 more folders, slid them across the table. Sarah Henderson, Angela Morrison, Patricia Cole, 3 other black women, 3 attacks over 6 months, same area, same methods, same men. Your organization has been harboring serial rapists, Frank. This is a pattern. This is hunting. Frank opened the folders, read them slowly. His face remained neutral, but his jaw tightened with each page. When he finished, he closed the folders carefully, pushed them back across the table. I'll look into it. Not good enough. It's what you're getting. Then let me be very clear. Bumpy leaned forward, dropped his voice so only Frank could hear. I'm giving you 72 hours, 3 days. If those 5 men aren't delivered to me by Sunday at midnight, I'm coming for them myself. And if I have to go through your organization to get them, I will. Every man in the club tensed. You could feel it, the collective intake of breath. You didn't threaten Frank Costello. Not in his own club, not surrounded by his soldiers. Frank's smile disappeared entirely. You're talking about war. I'm talking about justice. You decide which one happens. Justice. Frank tasted the word like poison. Bumpy, you run numbers, policy, smuggling. You break the law for a living. Don't lecture me about justice. I break laws that protect money and power. Your men broke the only law that protects human dignity. There's a difference. Not to the women in your territory who get beaten by your collectors. My collectors don't rape. Bumpy stood. 72 hours, Frank. Don't waste them. He walked out the same way he came in, alone, unarmed. Every gun in the room wanted to shoot him. None did. Because even in Frank Costello's kingdom, some men commanded respect through presence alone. After the door closed, Frank's underboss leaned in. "Boss, we can't let him dictate. Shut up." Frank's voice could have frozen fire. "Get Dominic and the others, all 5. Bring them here, right now. I want to hear their version before Bumpy Johnson turns this into the bloodiest month in New York history." October 4th, 2:15 a.m. Dominic Russo sat across from Frank Costello in a private room above the Copacabana. The other 4 men stood against the wall. Tony looked nervous, Vincent defiant, Paulie terrified, Marco calculating, always calculating. Frank placed Claudette's photograph on the table. "Tell me you didn't do it." Dominic glanced at the photo, shrugged. "Boss, it was just a colored girl from Harlem, nobody important. We were blowing off steam." Frank's hand moved so fast, Dominic didn't see it coming. The slap split his lip. Blood ran down his chin. "I didn't ask for your justification," Frank said quietly. Dangerously. "I asked yes or no." Dominic touched his bleeding mouth, shock in his eyes. "Boss, I don't." Frank pulled a gun from inside his jacket and shot Dominic in the knee. The gunshot was deafening in the small room. Dominic screamed, fell off his chair. Blood pooled on the expensive carpet. The other 4 men froze in absolute terror. Frank stood, walked to where Dominic writhed on the floor, pressed the gun to his forehead. "We have rules, sacred rules. Women and children are off limits. It's not a suggestion. It's not negotiable. It's law." His voice was thunder. "You didn't just rape a girl. You invoked my name while doing it. You told her this is Costello territory. You made me complicit. You turned me into your accomplice." Tony Marconi found his voice, stammering. "Mr. Costello, my Uncle Carlo, he said that sometimes you gotta send messages. Your Uncle Carlo is going to disown you when I tell him what you did, because Carlo follows the code." Frank looked at each of them. "How many women?" Silence. "How many?" Marco DeLuca spoke. Calm, collected, the survivor in the room. "4 that I know of. Claudette Williams is number 4. Frank lowered the gun, sat back down, looked at these 5 men, his soldiers, his responsibility, his shame, and felt something he rarely felt anymore. Disgust. "You're serial predators," he said quietly. "Operating under my protection, using my territory as your hunting ground, using my name as your shield." Vincent Calabresi, the stupid one, spoke up. "Boss, it's not like they're real people. They're just..." Frank shot him in the foot. Vincent collapsed, screaming. Blood everywhere. "Anyone else want to explain to me why black women aren't real people?" Silence. "Good. Because here's your situation. Bumpy Johnson gave me 72 hours to hand you over, or he's coming for you himself. And if he does that, it starts a war that costs me millions of dollars and dozens of men. So I have to choose. Protect you and go to war, or give you to Bumpy and maintain peace." Dominic threw his pain. "You can't give us to him. We're made. We're under your protection. You were under my protection. Then you broke the code. Protection is earned. You forfeited it." Marco DeLuca stepped forward, the smart one, the snake. Mr. Costello, if you give us to Bumpy, every crew in New York will think you bent the knee to Harlem. They'll test you, question you. You'll spend years rebuilding respect. But if you charge Bumpy something valuable for our lives, you look smart. You look like a businessman who turned a crisis into profit. That way, nobody loses respect. You get richer. Bumpy gets his revenge. Everyone wins except us. Frank stared at Marco, seeing him clearly for the first time. You're smart, Marco, smarter than these animals. But you're also a rapist, and you just gave me an idea that might save both our lives. He stood. Here's what's happening. I'm giving you to Bumpy, but not as surrender, as a transaction. He wants you 5. He's going to pay for you, and the price is going to hurt. October 5th, 11 p.m., Yankee Stadium, neutral ground. The stadium was closed, dark, empty. Just the field and the seats and the ghosts of summer games. Frank Costello stood at home plate with his underboss. Bumpy Johnson walked in from center field with Illinois Gordon. They met in the middle. 2 of the most powerful criminals in New York. Under the stars. Surrounded by silence. Frank spoke first. I investigated, confirmed your accusations. My men raped Claudette Williams. They also attacked at least 3 other women before her. They violated the code. Under mob law, they forfeit their protection. They forfeit their lives. He paused. Let it hang there. I'm prepared to hand them over to you. Good. But there's a price. Bumpy's face went cold. A price. Your Harlem operations. Numbers, policy, gambling, protection, smuggling. You transfer 30% ownership to me. In exchange, I deliver 5 rapists to you, and I publicly acknowledge your right to justice. Illinois. Gordon exploded. You're trying to charge him for the right to punish your men for crimes they committed? That's... Frank's underboss stepped forward. Hands went to guns on both sides. Bumpy raised one hand. Illinois backed down. You want me to pay you for justice, Bumpy said. Voice like ice. I want you to understand that everything has a cost, Bumpy. You want these men dead? You'll get them. But I need something that makes this look like a business deal, not a surrender. That way I save face. You get your revenge. We both avoid a war that kills dozens and costs millions. Frank lit a cigar. It's business, nothing personal. Everything about this is personal, Frank. You're putting a price tag on rape. I'm putting a price tag on peace. You want to be righteous? Go be a preacher. You want 5 men dead? Pay the toll. Bumpy looked at Illinois, saw the fury on his friend's face, thought about Claudette, about Sarah and Angela and Patricia, about every black woman who'd been told her pain didn't matter. 20%, Bumpy said. 30, non-negotiable. 25, 30. Frank's voice was granite. And you announced publicly that we made a legitimate business deal. No mention of why. If the truth comes out, that I charged you to punish my own men, it makes both of us look bad. You look weak for paying. I look evil for charging. Better if we maintain the fiction. Bumpy was silent, doing the math. 30% of Harlem's economy, millions over the years. Dozens of families who depended on his operations losing income. All of it gone to buy justice for one woman. But then he thought, if not Claudette, then who? If he let this slide, how many more women would die? Deal, Bumpy said, but you deliver them to me, and you spread the word that they betrayed your trust, that they acted without your knowledge. Their names get stripped from your organization. Done. Frank extended his hand. They shook, both knowing this peace was temporary, both knowing the real war was still coming. October 6th, 9 p.m. The 5 men were delivered to a warehouse in Harlem. Tied up, blindfolded, thrown from a truck like garbage. When the blindfolds came off, they saw Bumpy Johnson standing 20 feet away, Illinois Gordon and 8 men in a semicircle behind him. To the left, Claudette Williams, Mayme beside her. Behind them, 20 women, all black, all young, all survivors of violence that was never investigated. To the right, a camera on a tripod, film rolling, and in front of everyone, 5 nooses hanging from the warehouse rafters, rope swaying slightly in the draft. Dominic started to speak. "Johnson, whatever deal you made with Costello, shut your mouth." Bumpy's voice was quiet, terrifying. Dominic Russo, Tony Marconi, Vincent Calabrese, Paulie Giordano, Marco DeLuca. You're here because you raped Claudette Williams on October 2nd, 1952. You're here because you attacked at least 3 other women before her. Under mob law, you've forfeited your protection. You've forfeited your lives. But before you die, you're going to confess. Every crime, every victim, every detail. On camera. We're not saying shit, Vincent spat. Costello will. Illinois walked over and hit Vincent in the stomach, hard enough to lift him off his feet. Vincent doubled over, gasping. Frank Costello sold you yesterday, Bumpy continued. Charged me 30% of Harlem to buy your lives. Put the word out that you betrayed his trust. As of now, you're nobody. Just 5 rapists who thought being Italian made you untouchable. He gestured to the camera. You're going to tell that camera everything. If you refuse, I start breaking bones. If you lie, these women will correct you. You have one chance to tell the truth. I suggest you take it. For the next 90 minutes, under the camera's unblinking eye, they confessed. Tony Marconi broke down. Admitted everything through tears. Said he was drunk. Said he was trying to impress the older men. Begged for forgiveness. Vincent Calabrese stayed defiant. Admitted it with a sneer. Yeah, we did it. 4 nigger girls. So what? Paulie Giordano cried. Confessed everything. Begged for his life. Then Marco DeLuca. He sat calmly, looked directly at Bumpy. And when he spoke, his voice was steady. Before I confess, there's something you should know. Marco reached inside his shirt, pulled out a locket on a chain, held it up. My mother was Rosa DeLuca. You knew her. 1920. You were 19. She was 17. Bumpy went very still. She got pregnant that summer, Marco continued. With me, she told you. You said it wasn't the right time. Too dangerous. Your life was too uncertain. You'd come back when things were stable. You never came back. Marco, Illinois started. She raised me alone. In poverty. Told me about my father. The great Bumpy Johnson. King of Harlem. She died when I was 16. Cancer. We couldn't afford treatment. She died in agony because you were building an empire and we were starving. He opened the locket. Inside, a photograph. Young Bumpy, 19 years old, standing next to a beautiful young woman with dark hair. Rosa. I'm 32 years old, born March 1920. Do the math. The warehouse was silent. Every person staring. Bumpy's face had gone pale. "You're lying," Illinois said. "Am I?" Marco looked at Bumpy. "You remember her, Rosa DeLuca. You took her to a jazz club in Harlem, told her you'd marry her someday, told her she was the most beautiful woman you'd ever seen. Then you left and never came back. And she spent the rest of her short life wondering what she did wrong. Because I wanted to destroy everything you built," Marco said calmly. "I wanted you to feel powerless, to watch your world burn. I targeted women from Harlem, used Costello's name so it would come back to you. I wanted you to feel what my mother felt, abandoned, helpless, worthless." Mayme gasped. Claudette was staring. The room was frozen. "If what you're saying is true," Bumpy said slowly, "then you murdered women and destroyed lives to hurt me. Your own father. You were never my father. You were a ghost who abandoned us." "I didn't know." Bumpy's voice cracked. "Rosa never told me she was pregnant. If I'd known..." "You would have what? Married her? Raised me? You were a criminal. You had nothing to offer us. She knew that. That's why she never told you. She protected you from your own responsibility." Silence. Then Bumpy spoke, voice like breaking glass. Did Rosa hate me? No." Marco's voice was quiet now, almost gentle. "She loved you until the day she died, kept your photo, told me stories about you, said you were the best man she'd ever known. That's what made it worse. You were her hero, and you disappeared." Bumpy closed his eyes, grief washing over him like a wave. Then Claudette spoke. Her voice was steel. "I don't care if you're his son. You destroyed my life to hurt him. You murdered Angela Morrison. You drove Patricia Cole to suicide. You raped Sarah Henderson. You did all of that for revenge. Biology doesn't excuse evil. It makes it worse." She turned to Bumpy. "You told me the victim decides, death or mercy." She looked at Marco, at the other four, at the nooses hanging above them. "I decide death, for all of them, including your son." The room went silent. Bumpy looked at Mayme. She had tears running down her face. He looked at Illinois. His friend's expression was granite. He looked at the 20 women standing witness, survivors demanding justice. Then he looked at Marco, his son, the child he never knew he had. A monster wearing his own face. "I understand perfectly." Claudette's voice didn't waver. "You're choosing justice over blood. That's what you promised me. That's what makes you different from them. They chose violence over humanity. You're choosing humanity over love." She stepped closer to him. "If you spare him because he's your son, then justice doesn't exist. Then being connected to power matters more than being innocent. And every woman like me will know that our lives are worth less than family loyalty." Bumpy looked at her, at this woman who'd been destroyed and was standing here demanding her own validation. "You're right," he said quietly. He turned to Marco. "I'm sorry for what happened to your mother. I'm sorry I wasn't there. I'm sorry you grew up without a father." His voice hardened. "But that doesn't excuse what you did. You had choices. You could have found me, confronted me, demanded answers. Instead, you chose to destroy innocent women to hurt me. That makes you a monster. And monsters don't get mercy just because we share blood." Marco stared at him. For the first time, fear showed in his eyes. You're really going to kill me." "No." Bumpy picked up the rope, walked to the first noose. "We're going to kill you. Together. Claudette, Mayme, Illinois, the families of the women you destroyed. We're all going to watch you hang. And the last thing you'll see is your father choosing justice over you." He turned to the others. "Confess, now. Every detail. Marco's already told his story. Now you tell yours." For the next 20 minutes, Marco DeLuca confessed. 4 rapes, 1 murder, conspiracy, targeting, using his father's name to select victims. When he finished, Bumpy looked at Claudette one last time. "Are you certain?" "I'm certain." Bumpy nodded. "Then let's end this." They hung them one by one, not with the instant death drop used in legal executions. The slow way, where they strangled, where it took minutes, where they suffered. Dominic Russo went first, screaming, begging, promising information about Costello. The noose went around his neck. The rope pulled tight. His feet left the ground. He kicked, thrashed, took 4 minutes to die. Tony Marconi, crying, calling for his mother. 3 minutes. Vincent Calabrese, still defiant, still sneering, lasted the longest. 6 minutes. Died with hatred in his eyes. Paulie Giordano, sobbing, apologizing. 2 minutes. The fastest. Then Marco. Bumpy stood in front of his son, the noose in his hands. "Any last words?" he asked. Marco looked at his father, at the man who'd loved his mother and never knew she was pregnant, at the king of Harlem who was about to execute his own child. "Tell Mama I'm sorry," Marco whispered. "Tell her I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough to forgive you." Bumpy's hands were shaking as he placed the noose around Marco's neck. "I'll tell her when I see her again." He pulled the rope tight. Marco's feet left the ground. Bumpy stood there, watching his son die, tears running down his face, but his hands didn't waver. The rope stayed tight. Marco kicked, struggled, his eyes locked on his father's. Accusation, grief, understanding, forgiveness, all of it flashing across his face as oxygen left his brain. 5 minutes, then stillness. Bumpy let go of the rope. Marco's body swayed. The warehouse was silent except for 20 women crying, not for the dead men, for the impossible choice that justice demanded. Claudette walked to Bumpy, put her hand on his arm. "Thank you." Bumpy looked at her. His face was destroyed. "Don't thank me. I just killed my son." "No," Claudette said quietly. "You chose justice. That's different." "Is it?" "Yes. Because if you'd chosen him, I would still be worthless. Sarah would still be forgotten. Angela would still be at the bottom of the river with no one caring. Patricia would still have died thinking nobody believed her." She squeezed his arm. "You proved we matter, even when it cost you everything." Bumpy nodded. Couldn't speak, just nodded. Illinois started cutting down the bodies. The women filed out in silence. Mayme stayed beside her husband. She didn't say anything, just held his hand while he stared at the body of the son he never knew. October 8th, midnight, Frank Costello's estate. Bumpy walked into Frank's study without knocking. Frank's bodyguards reached for guns. Frank waved them down. "Leave us." They left. The door closed. "I know what you did," Bumpy said. Frank set down his scotch. "What did I do?" You orchestrated the rape. Dominic told me before he died, said you ordered them to send me a message, create leverage, make me come begging. You weaponized rape to extort me. And you believe a dead rapist. Bumpy threw a folder on the desk. 3 years of sabotage, every expansion I attempted, every deal I tried to make. Something always went wrong, always forced me to ask you for help, for loans, for protection, building debt. He pointed at the folder. That folder contains every illegal transaction you've made in 10 years, every bribe, every politician, every cop. Tonight, copies go to FBI, IRS, and every newspaper unless you return the 30%. Frank opened the folder. Page after page of evidence. His face went pale. You're blackmailing me. I'm collecting a debt. You charged me 30% for justice. I'm taking it back, plus interest. You're withdrawing from Harlem entirely. And you're going to spread the word that you tried to extort Bumpy Johnson using rape, and it failed. Bumpy leaned forward. You weaponized violence against women. You used their bodies as business tools. You showed me what you really are. So now I'm showing you what happens when you cross lines that should never be crossed. If I agree, I look weak. If you refuse, you go to prison. Choose. Silence. Then Frank nodded. You'll have your money back by Friday. Good. Bumpy turned to leave. Stopped. One more thing. Marco DeLuca was my son. Did you know? Frank's expression flickered. Surprise. No. Would it have mattered? No. Then we understand each other. Bumpy walked out. Behind him, Frank sat alone, defeated, for the first time in 30 years. March 1953. Kefauver committee hearings. Claudette Williams testified before Congress. Television cameras broadcasting to millions. She told the whole story. The rape, the confession tapes, the execution, the price Bumpy paid. Senator, she said, you want to know what's wrong with America? A gangster gave me more justice than the law. Bumpy Johnson sacrificed his fortune and executed his own son to prove my life mattered. While police laughed at me, while courts ignored me, while America said I don't count. She looked directly at the camera. Every woman watching this needs to know justice exists. Even when the system fails us, even when it costs everything, justice is possible. The room erupted. Claudette started survivor support groups. Within 5 years, 500 women joined. She became a social worker, testified in 30 trials, changed laws, saved lives. But she never forgot October 1952, the month she died and chose to live. 16 years later, Bumpy died of a heart attack at 62. His funeral packed Abyssinian Baptist Church. Claudette stood to speak. 52 years old. Gray hair, strong spine. Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson broke the law, hurt people, built an empire on crime. All true. But in October 1952, he sacrificed 30% of his wealth and executed his own son to prove that my life mattered. Her voice broke. He chose justice over blood, over love, over everything he built, because he believed black women deserve justice, even when it destroys the person delivering it. She looked at the coffin. Sleep well, Bumpy. You paid a price no father should ever pay. And because you did, 400 women are alive today, knowing justice is real. The church wept. Outside, a man stood alone, watching from the street, White hair, expensive suit, Frank Costello. He didn't go inside, just stood there, watching his enemy buried. Then he walked away, defeated, diminished, bankrupt of respect. Bumpy had won after all. A filmmaker discovered the confession tapes, made a documentary. It premiered at Sundance. The final scene. Claudette Williams' last interview before she died in 1995. Justice cost Bumpy Johnson his son, cost me my innocence, cost Bumpy's wife her husband's peace. That's what real justice costs. Everything. But without it, we're nothing. We're bodies, disposable. So yes, the price was high, but I'd pay it again. Because justice proves we're human. And that's worth everything. I really want to know, where in the world are you watching this from? Drop your city or country in the comments. This story has reached readers on every continent, and I'm always amazed by how far these legends travel. Drop a comment, share this story. Let's talk about it. See you in the next one.